They let us know it will be 3 hours before their heavy weather rescue boat would get there. So we're pretty much at the mercy of all of this. We got our dinghy ready to go overboard in case we hit the rocks. Boat, and even our lives were at risk. And almost simultaneously, we both looked up at one point and noticed the most incredible, dramatic, beautiful full moon. And amidst all that chaos, we actually had the experience, this wonderful Zen-like peace. I tell you that story because every one of you has something similar, I'm sure, in your history, where you were in something you might in retrospect call a crisis, and somewhere along the line you found yourself in your zone. Time disappeared. You were fully present. You were totally engaged with what was happening. You were in a productive flow. And if you had the luxury to stop for a minute, you may have then had the experience of a wonderful sense of being present. Getting things done is not about getting things done. It's really about being appropriately engaged with what's going on. Appropriate engagement is the real key here. Many times, not getting something done is how to appropriately engage with it. Every one of you, hopefully, is appropriately not engaged with every single thing else aside from listening to me right now. And even have any strategic and important stuff on your mind? Well, interestingly, the more it's on your mind, the more it's not happening. The more you are inappropriately engaged with it. Why? It's not on cruise control. It's only on your mind because you know there's still some thinking or some decisions about that you haven't made, or you haven't parked the results of that into some trusted systemic process that you trust will be triggered at the right time in the right way. The big paradox is that all the complexities and all the stuff of your life, in order to manage that, you just need 3 core principles that you understand and apply. It's not about a new smartphone. It's not about a new elegant planner. It's not about a new piece of software. Those are cool tools, but only insofar as you use them to apply those key principles. Once you get those principles, you can make your own system. A second paradox here is that the initial moves and behaviors and best practices of this may very likely, for many of you, initially feel very awkward, very unnatural, and even unnecessary. Some of the things I'll be recommending will be just like that. For instance, don't keep anything in your head the rest of your life. Every single thing you're committed to finish that takes more than one step to finish it, you need to clarify exactly what that outcome and project is and put that on a project list that you look at least once a week. The problem is when you're not in crisis, there's a more subliminal crisis that happens. Why? The whole world now is allowed into your psyche. You now get to experience all the stuff you would, could, should, need to, might, ought to, all the stuff piling up in your in-baskets and emails while I'm speaking right now, all of that now floods into your psyche. And that can easily create a sense of overwhelm, a sense of confusion, a sense of conflict. Every single thing seems to demand equal kind of attention for you. And then you usually respond to that by either numbing out or getting into crazy busy. And then you blame that stress on the lack of time. Oh, have I just had? Oh, God, it's all I need is more time. Well, I'm sorry. Leonardo da Vinci, Thomas Jefferson, Einstein, Mother Teresa, they only had 24 hours. Johann Sebastian Bach only had 24 hours. I know he didn't have email, but he had 20 kids. Because the issue is not time. How long does it take to have a creative idea? 0 time. How long does it take to be inspired? 0 time. How long does it take to recognize an opportunity you could leverage or take advantage of? 0 time. Time is not the issue for those things. There is something required for those things. What's that? Psychic bandwidth. You need space to think. Believe me, every executive I coach, once I put those words on it, they go, yes, I need room to think. I need space to be able to be creative, be innovative, all that stuff I'm being tasked to do, to be a leader, all that stuff. I just need room. And if you don't have psychological space, you could have 2 hours of free time and waste it. If you do have psychic bandwidth, 2 minutes in an elevator, you can have a cool idea and have a fabulous relationship with somebody that moves the needle. Our creative energy is then not available to be creative. Our creative energy is being used to try to patch up and handle and try to remember and remind and try to do all that stuff that most people are trying to manage all the details and stuff of their life in their psyche instead of in a system. The most productive times I am is when I have the freedom to make a creative mess. You too. I need room to be crazy, to make some mistakes, to brainstorm, to be chaotic, go a little off the edge. That is going to be your most productive time, is when you have that kind of freedom to do that. However, folks, if you're already in a mess, you ain't got room to make one. If your kitchen's a mess, you don't have time or the energy to have a creative dinner for your friends. If your desk and your office are a mess, you don't have room and space to be, crazy about some new project and spread out and have brainstorm with ideas. The results of that, if you're trying to use your psyche to manage that mess and you never get out of it, is you get the results of two things that are the critical elements of self and organizational productivity. You'll lose perspective. That is, you lose the ability to put your focus where you need it on exactly the thing you need it, at the horizon you need it. And or you may be experiencing the results of what happens when you lose control. That is, I now don't have stability and I don't have the freedom in my head to be able to put the appropriate attention and execute on it when I do. So those are the two key elements. Folks, you can't manage time. You don't mismanage 5 minutes and come up with 6. Get into micromanagement. If you don't have appropriate focus, you can get down on those weeds and hung up in them like crazy. And you'll spend a lot of time doing a lot of trying to get organized about things that may not be that important. Right? In the morning, your crazy maker said, get a new iPhone. The afternoon, you spend 2 hours of what could be a strategic afternoon trying to set up the right ringtones. I've got a couple of lessons I've learned. Lesson number 1 is, hey, folks, flexibility trumps perfection. Way, way, way beyond. Life is not static, folks. There is no perfection here. If there is, it means I've now married myself and matched myself to the dynamics of life and its activity. The second lesson I've learned is I need the ability to be able to shift my focus rapidly, in, out, up, down, quickly. In a very few minutes, I might deal with a family issue and then take out the garbage and then be dealing with a business negotiation and not take one to the next, but be fully available for each thing, give it its appropriate due. Most people are taking one meeting to the next. Most people are taking home to work and work to home. That's not mind like water. Here's what you're really after. You want the ability to be able to put your focus exactly where you need it in the way you need it, and not use your mind to be trying to accumulate stuff and avoid it. Big key. Folks, if you don't give appropriate attention to what has your attention, it'll start to take more of your attention than it deserves. So the weird, strange thing here is you actually have to use your mind to get stuff off your mind. So you have to apply a process to be able to get this stuff out of there. It won't happen by itself. How do you do that? Key number 1, get it out of your head. Simple, but boy, is that a big habit for most adults to change. Anything and everything that's potentially meaningful, write it down. Mom. Dog. Babysitter. You go, right, well, I understand those sort of probably indicate something, that's something you've got to do something about. But what exactly is the work you need to do? And that's going to be the second thing you need to do, is to take those things that you've identified that are yanking your chain, and you need to make some really specific decisions about what does the work involve. And there's 2 key questions you need to ask about everything on your list. What outcome am I committed to finish, so that you can define that target out there? What's the project about the budget, about the dog, about the babysitter, and identify those. And then you need to ask yourself, what's the very next action step that I need to take to move forward on that if I were going to move on it? In all of that, what you're going to need are maps. You need the appropriate maps of all the projects. You need the maps of all the actions you have. And there are other maps you probably need to have. What's my job? Key areas of focus and accountability. What are the things in my personal life I need to watch and manage and take care of on a regular basis? That's another great map. So you need to build maps of all of this so that you can step back and see the whole gestalt of what your life is involved in, so that then you can make good intuitive decisions about what to do. Very simple, folks. Just write stuff down. Decide actions and outcomes embedded in them. Get yourself a map of all of that so you can step back and take a look at it. And then, basically, you use the map to decide, okay, here's the course that we're going to go on. You then launch the ship on a trusted course in terms of short term, as well as the long horizon that you're moving on. And then on some regular basis, you need to reassess, okay, we need to take in new data, clean up, recalibrate, and refocus for the next leg of the journey. It's that simple.